Hello, welcome to Insight Tennis Tour Strokes series. My name is Rick Oldroyd. I'm the president and founder of Insight Tennis, and I'm also the head pro. Today we want to talk to you a little bit about the two-handed backhand, and specifically some of the misconceptions and misunderstandings that I believe exist with this stroke. With both teaching it and also watching the tour players produce their signature strokes. I believe that it's very difficult to discern the truth when you watch the pro game. It simply just happens too fast, and so for this reason I believe there's a lot of misconceptions, a lot of misunderstandings with regards to not only how the two-handed backhand should be taught, but also what's actually happening in this stroke, and especially at the tour level. These series of videos are designed to teach you how the best players in the world hit the ball, specifically and precisely how they hit the ball, so that there's no question about the biomechanics and the technique that they're using. Now, it is widely believed that the tour players, when they hit a two-handed backhand, have what I would call excessive wrist rotation or wrist flicking or movement at impact. And what I mean by that is essentially they come into the ball, and as they come into the ball, they're going to do this with their wrists. Okay? So let me make sure that that's in the frame here. So I'm good hip and shoulder rotation. I'm taking the racket back. I'm stepping into my shot, and as I'm coming into the ball, I'm going to come and rotate back to impact. I make contact out in front, and then I'm going to do this with my wrist, whether it starts here and then goes to this way. Now, if in fact that were true, then when you look at pictures of the best players in the world and the tour pros, after impact, you would clearly see that their racket would be up in the air like this, straight up in the air, right? And you can see, if you've ever looked at any pictures or video or anything like that, that that is absolutely not the case. And so there's a lot of misconception around this. It happens so fast at the tour level that it's really difficult and hard for you to discern. So it's understandable why these misconceptions occur, but I also believe that this is a big reason why recreational players and club players struggle with their two-handed backhand in getting depth and penetration to their shot, because they have what I call a glancing blow. Rather than driving the ball out to their target, they're just glancing off the back of the ball. So what we want to look at here that illustrates that this just doesn't happen is, if that were the case, and as they came into the ball and they made contact here, the racket, as I said, would be up here. The other reason why I believe it doesn't happen is because it would disconnect them from their power source, which is their body. We all know, anyone who's been in tennis for a long time knows that the power comes from the ground, through your body, up through the kinetic chain. But your body is the power source, not your arm and not your wrist. As soon as if you think about it from the laws of physics, as soon as I do this with my hands, I've disconnected myself from my power source, which is my body. Now, if you watch Andre Agassi, if you watch Djokovic, if you watch Nishikori, any of these players that arguably have the best two-handed backhands in the world, Andy Murray is certainly a part of that list, you will see very clearly that they all have very distinct similarities in terms of, preparation, hip and shoulder rotation. They take the racket back with their body, not their hands and arms, and they drop the racket below the level of the ball. They rotate back to impact, but at impact, their hands extend out through the ball, all the way out until they come up here and finish on their wrap, and of course their left foot comes around to assure that their trunk rotation was in fact complete. Now, I'm not going to say that there aren't some players that use a little bit more wrist if they're pulled out wide and they have to use a little bit more wrist. There are situations where clearly it calls for a little bit more wrist and a little bit more rotation. But by and large, when they hit their signature shots, especially from baseline rallies, there is none of this thing going on. And I mean independent of your arms and body. Now, that being said, they do come into the ball and they go from a low position to a higher position, which imparts the spin that everyone thinks that they're creating by doing this kind of a thing. Once again, we know that that's not happening, because if it was, then the racket would be up here, the racket would be in different positions after impact, and clearly it's not. So what you want to do to hit this shot, first of all, as we all know, you get a good ready position and you're going to take the racket back with your body. You don't take the racket back with your arms. Notice that I just turned my body. That allows me to load on my right leg here as I step in, as I allow the racket to drop into position as I step in, right? So just in slow motion here, and I'm stepping in, timing the ball. As I rotate back to impact, I make contact here, and I want to continue my path of my racket out towards my target as long as I can until the natural deceleration and wrap phase happens at the end. But that happens as a product of the swing and of the acceleration of the swing, not me thinking, rotating or flicking my wrists or anything like that. Now, you're probably thinking, well, how do I impart spin on the ball, or how do I get top spin on the ball? Believe me, if you take the racket here, just like Djokovic does, just watch carefully. Any video you see of him, you're going to see that he takes his racket back like this, and when he steps into the ball, he comes down, his racket drops below, and he rotates back to impact, right? He rotates back to impact, staying connected with his body, and then he extends his arms out through the ball, and after the ball's long gone, this wrap and this finish happens. Now, if we think about this from the laws of physics, simply from the laws of physics themselves, the longer I allow my racket to travel out towards my target, the better chance I have of hitting the ball to that target. And that's just simple physics. So the next time you're out there on your two-handed backhand, practice this. Practice making sure that you're taking your racket and getting below the level of the ball, but as you come back to the impact, continue out towards your target, and as your arm straightens out, your arm is going to create the natural higher trajectory. A lot of people think that the pros are doing that themselves, but what you'll find is that the reason why the racket is traveling up is because the arm itself has straightened out and there's no other place for it to go. If I make contact with the ball here and I continue out through the ball, it has to go up. And we see this as them doing this kind of a thing. We're hitting from here and trying to hit up the back of the ball. But if you watch video of the best players in the world and the best two-handers in the world, you'll see very, very clearly that that is not the case. That they literally do not flick their wrists at impact in this way, independent of their body. Granted, there is wrist and arm rotation, and there are some shots where they may use more wrist than others, but once again, it's not independent of the body. Hopefully that is helpful for you. The next time you go out on the court, think about hitting through 2 or 3 balls, extending your arms out towards the target, and if you need a little bit more top spin, then all you need to do is start from a slightly lower position and finish a little higher, and you'll impart plenty of spin on that ball. The problem with hitting it the other way is it's a glancing blow, and there's really not a lot on that shot. So when you play a good advanced player, they're just going to come in, take that ball on the rise, make contact, pound it into the corner, and take control of the point. So it really doesn't gain you anything. Once again, just by way of review, allow that racket to come back, take your racket back with your body, not your arms and your hands. As you step into the ball, you make contact with the ball, and you're going to extend out through your target. Once again, out through the ball. Notice that there's no wrist or very little wrist. There's wrist and arm rotation, but no flicking or snapping. Once again, out through the ball, and then come around to finish the wrap. Notice that I'm also landing with my feet perpendicular to the court so that I can recover really easily back to get ready for the next shot. Once again, hopefully this is helpful for you. If you like this video, please click the link below and subscribe to our channel, Insight Tennis. Also, visit our website at insighttennis.com. If you have a particular part of your game that you're struggling with and you feel like you've come to a plateau and you just can't seem to get any better, what I've found in over 20 years of teaching is that more often than not, the reason is incorrect biomechanics and incorrect understanding of technique and biomechanics. I'm a big believer that if you don't have the right technique and the right biomechanics, there's only so good you can become. You can only take your game to a certain level. In other words, your lack of biomechanics and lack of correct technique are actually holding you back. You can only become so good with certain biomechanics. So I'm a big believer that you start with the right foundation, and then we can build on that foundation such that how good you become is entirely up to you and entirely up to what you're willing to do, how hard you're willing to work, price you're willing to pay. But your biomechanics and technique are not going to hold you back. Hopefully this is helpful. Once again, please click the link below if you like this video. Subscribe to our channel, check out our website, and please send your videos to us so we can do an analysis and help you out with your game. Thank you for your time. We'll see you out there on the court.